Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Manny Lubin of Slate Milk. Manny, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah. So I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
Oh, man. I don't remember too much about the toddler days, but I grew up in Wellesley, Mass. It's a suburb of Boston.
Yeah.
So to my core, I like to think of a masshole. Like still I mean, I'm more of a Tom Brady fan than a Pats fan, but Pat Sox, Bees, Celts,
Yeah.
and I up until I went to college, the only thing that I really cared about was sports. Like
Mm,
I kind of rode the B minus train in high school, and
yeah.
every once in a while, like my mom would say that she would give me money if I got A's and apply myself a little bit more, and that's usually when the grades went up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just didn't care too much about my grades. I just wanted to be good at sports. And so
Yeah.
I think that's what I really focused on and played football, basketball, baseball until the junior year of high school, and then just football and baseball through varsity.
Yeah.
And that was my life, man.
I love it. I'm curious, kind of through those years and going and looking at college. I saw you went to Northeastern. Was
Yep.
athletics an intention going into there as well, or what happened there? That
Yeah, so I the plan was I applied to I think 9 out of 10 schools I applied to had football programs, and Northeastern was one of them. And then I applied and got in, and I was going to try to walk on the football team, just toss some pads on, and I was never going to go pro. But then they cut the football team, but I liked the school,
yeah.
and so went to college. And then my freshman year playing pickup basketball actually tore everything in my knee.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
that's when I just started, yeah, ACL, MCL, meniscus. And that's when I started getting more into fitness versus just sports.
Yeah. So yeah, with those years kind of stopping after that injury, what was your college experience like? What did you end up studying, and how did your vision kind of change going in for your career then?
Yeah. So I didn't know what I wanted to study. I always joke, like, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. No, I never really knew what path I wanted to go down. So I was a
Yeah.
communications major. And I just, like, my dad was a videographer, my mom was a physical therapist. And so I just, neither of them really sat behind desks. And I think it's not in the Lubin blood to do that.
Yeah.
So I studied communications with a media studies concentration and just learned about TV and film. And I worked a handful of internships. And I think I realized I didn't just want to sit behind a desk and work like a traditional 9 to 5. And I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I knew that, and when I was at college, I was the VP of my fraternity, and I was VP of a community service organization that was like hyper localized Big Brothers called the Dream Program.
Okay.
And those were the things that I enjoyed, was like trying to be the best with the team
Yeah.
versus just like getting good grades. And I ended up putting a lot of time into it, and just free time. Like, didn't have to,
Yeah.
but ended up being fun. And then that's when I realized, like, the kind of towards the end of college, got caught the startup bug of like this. I don't know what entrepreneurship is. I don't know what founding a company is, but
Yeah.
just building shit with a group of people, it's
Yeah.
fun.
For sure. So yeah, I'm curious. Right after college, then did you? You said you entered that startup kind of world. What did you end up getting into right away?
Yeah. So when I was in college, because I was VP of two organizations,
Hmm.
LinkedIn and Facebook, I would always get messages on those platforms to be like a brand ambassador for like a company, or
Yeah.
to send out a message because they're looking for brand ambassadors. And so right out of college, me and my older brother started a platform where we connected college students and brands.
Mm.
And we built it to like 500 brands, 30,000 college students, and did that for about a year, and learned a lot. Like, learned about fundraising, learned about building platforms. Like, we actually built a tech platform, so
Mm.
learned about building tech. And then that's when I realized I was like 24, 25, and I was still like selling college brand ambassador programs, which for me just like wasn't my, like, something I really enjoyed doing. I just
Yeah.
like the startup, like, build feel of it and building something. So that's when I sold the assets to a college marketing company. And through that first company is when I met Josh, and then we
Mm.
came together in 20 late 2017, because his company was going through a pivot, and that's where Slate was really the conceptually born.
Wow. So you both entered another company. What kind of industry was that you got into? I'm curious.
So Josh was it. So right out of my first company is when I started Slate, and then Josh, his first
Got
company,
it.
was a high tech startup too. It was a platform that connected service providers and startup CEOs. So that's
Yeah.
how we met.
Okay.
Was through that company, and his company was going through a pivot. I just stopped my first business, and that's when we came together and started Slate.
Incredible. I would love to hear some of the origin for the listeners out there. So it really, it's as I know, it's a healthier chocolate milk is what you guys started as. Can you kind of explain what got you into that, especially with your athletic background and maybe with your co-founder, how that came together?
Yeah. So Slate, what we thought we were helping to give chocolate milk a clean slate. That's where the name came from. But
Yep.
what we found is it's actually evolved more into a fitness brand. Like we say, we sell strength through high protein chocolate milks or high protein shakes. Now, a lot of people call them, and
Yep.
high protein coffees. And in the early days, we were both just drinking a ton of lactose free chocolate milk, super high in sugar, meant for kids, not in sustainable packaging. And so we said, if we could fix all its problems, there's this white space in between kids' high sugar chocolate milks and artificial protein shakes.
Yep.
And if we want it, there are probably a lot of other people that want it too. And we came together, just started we would meet on Northeastern's campus just to use their rooms. We'd brainstorm ideas on the wall, and you just start chipping away, right? There's no when people ask how to start a company, everyone does it differently. But when people ask us, we say, if I was going to give you 10 grand where in 30 days you'd give me a business plan, what would you do? You just figure it out. You Google things, you call people, you just try to find a way, and then you just learn from talking and Googling and doing, and then you just get better.
For sure. Take us back to that formulating process. Like, what did that look like in the early days? Testing, taste testing. Were you guys formulating yourself, kind of?
Yeah. So when it got to the formulation stage, this was maybe mid 2018 now, and we both weren't full time yet, and we went to Stop and Shop in Brighton, Mass, and we bought a bunch of ingredients because we said, all right, it's time to make a formula, and we mixed them all together and we tried it. And at that moment, we knew that we were not physically capable of creating the formula. Like that was the moment where we want to do everything we could ourselves because we didn't have any money to spend on it. We didn't want to spend any money on it. But that was the moment where we said we are not physically capable of creating this recipe. And that's when we raised our first check to pay for formulation. And we interviewed a handful of formulation companies and flavor houses. A formulation company will source flavors and you'll pay them a fee and they'll basically do it for you and you'll work with them. Whereas a flavor house has their own flavors. A lot of times they'll do the formulation work for free, but you have to use their flavors. So we ended up going with a formulation team. And we also learned a lot from them in the early days because, you pay people to do a job, but you also ask a lot of questions. You learn a lot.
Yeah, certainly. Knowing kind of that formulation process and kind of when you hire someone in that realm, it can be challenging to make sure that the co-packer can then produce that at scale. I'm curious, where did you guys look for production in the early stages, especially not really being in CPG yourselves at that point? Did you have guidance or how was that?
Yeah, it was a lot of Googling. It was a lot of learning. It was a lot of listening. It was reaching out to people, anyone that would talk to us just to learn the lay of the land. But at that point, then even now, even in 5 years, any brand, when you're building something, you're selling a dream. Like a lot of times, yes, you have data to back it up. You can show the market's growing. You can show, look at what's happening with this product, and we're very similar, and we're going to be more sustainable, and we're going to be better for you, and it tastes. But at the end of the day, you're selling a dream. Like you're selling a vision, and that's what startups are. Right? Convincing people to believe in your vision. And in the early days, we were fortunate to find people that believed in us, and we're still selling a vision for the future.
Love it. Take us to when you guys first started selling. Then you guys launched the product. Were you selling direct to consumer at all, or was this retail? What did the early stages look like?
Yeah. So our product is shelf stable, so it does not require refrigeration.
Yep.
And we launched it into retail right around Thanksgiving 2019.
Okay.
And we were only around for about 3 months before the pandemic. And so during the pandemic, we just couldn't go on shelves. So we had launched in probably about 300 doors in late 2019. And then when the pandemic hit, we pivoted mostly towards e-commerce. We still have a strong e-commerce business. We're mostly a retail brand at this point, but the retail presence continues to grow.
Yeah, I'm curious. And that that timeline of 2020, what did that look like for you guys, especially as a beverage like this? You have to convince consumers through taste typically and retail tasting. How did you guys market at that time?
Yeah, so at that point, we were a healthy chocolate milk. So in 2019, when we launched, we wanted to be known for doing one thing very well. The companies that we think do well, what's your value prop in one line? And at that point, it was healthy chocolate milk, right?
Yeah.
And how do you differentiate in one line? So even today, like for the rest of our lives, some people will know Josh and myself as the chocolate milk guys. And like, we're fine with that. Even though a lot of times what you think you're creating, you evolve past it, or
Yeah.
some people pivot. We say ours is more of an evolution. But at that time, it was, you get the taste of chocolate milk, but you get the macros of protein shake, more or less,
Yeah.
or a high protein coffee. And still, I think they're deep in our identity. It's still part of who we are.
Yeah.
But today, it's less about where the brand is evolving into. It's less about chocolate milk itself and more
For sure.
about healthy protein
Yeah.
or clean, healthy protein.
Yeah, certainly. I'd love to hear kind of from the feedback you guys received. What would you say is the main demographic mainly? And it's a universal product, but I mean, you can go into fitness, you can go to younger demographic. What are you guys hitting? Do you see?
Yeah, in terms of who we see consume Slate the most, again, like you said, it's kind of like a bullseye, right? Like you have your core consumers that are consuming it the most, but then there are a lot of rings around that. We're
For sure.
typically seeing what we call like the active millennial,
Mhm.
anyone from 18 to 40, that's fitness minded or healthy minded, where
Yeah.
if someone is already drinking a muscle milk, like scooping on muscle milk, and they've been doing it for 4 years, maybe they're not going to be our clientele right now.
Yeah.
But maybe if their life changes and they're more on the go more often, and they need to pick up an RTD protein shake on the go, they go into the store and they see a Slate that's all natural.
Yeah.
Maybe they make the switch over. But for us, a lot of the people that are drinking Slate actually haven't had protein shakes in years. And a lot of them hadn't had chocolate milk in years either. But just because of the macros, where it's 100 to 120 cal, 20 protein,
Yeah.
the coffees, obviously, you have your Starbucks Frappuccino out there that has significantly more calories and sugar than us.
Yeah.
We have people making the switch over. So our goal is to just provide clean, healthy protein for everyone.
For sure. At what point did you guys decide to expand then? I saw you also provide lattes. At what point was that? Why was that reasoning as well? You can explain.
Yeah. So when we launched in 2019, we had 3 flavors. We had a classic chocolate, a dark
Yep.
chocolate, and at the time, what we called an espresso chocolate.
Mhm.
So it was an espresso chocolate milk. We actually just rebranded that to Mocha Latte.
Got it.
And what we found is that in stores, the protein coffee blend was something that consumers really enjoyed, where it allowed them to get 20 grams of protein, no added sugar with their coffee, with their 175 milligrams caffeine. So that's why we released a vanilla latte, which is another latte product. And there might be more lattes coming, because we found that it's a unique option that clearly the consumers wanted, based on the data that we saw in the market.
Yeah. So can we dive into like Shark Tank a little bit? I saw that you guys were on Shark Tank. I have a few guests from the past who have been on the show. I'd love to hear what that experience was like for you guys launching just a fairly new startup in 2018. So what was that like for the two of you guys?
It was definitely an out of body experience. I think
Yeah.
if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying. Where look, it's probably the biggest stage still for founders, and
Yeah.
for us, we knew going in that there was going to be, we were probably going to disagree on a few things based on where
Yeah.
the company was at. And for us, it was, we're going to go in there and tell our story and stay true to who we are. And we always say we know what our company's worth, whether it's on national television with sophisticated investors or not. We don't really give special treatment. We want to find partners that want to work with us. And
Sure.
if we believe someone's going to add a lot of value, we try to make a deal work. And obviously we didn't get a deal on the show, but overall, I think that if anyone has the opportunity to do it, like, you just got to do it. It's just one of
Yeah.
those things where it's been around for a while. They obviously have created an unbelievable brand themselves, and a cult following. And it definitely, it's a domino on our journey. Like, a lot of people heard about us. I'm pretty sure we're re-airing like sometime this week too. And
Awesome.
yeah, it was a ride.
Yeah, regardless of not getting a deal, I'm sure you guys see a massive spike when that aired. I'm curious, what did that look like? Do you see a correlation when that show does air?
Yeah, so we definitely feel it. I think that there's certain products that are more meant for that see enormous spikes based on the products that they offer. So I really just think it's brand to brand. But I think our team will definitely feel something when it airs again.
Yeah, definitely. To the consumers out there who maybe haven't tried Slate before, can you kind of explain the difference between maybe their typical or their chocolate milk, that taste wise, not the function, but taste, what they might see?
Yeah. So when it comes to milk, I'm involuntarily now a milk nerd. So milk, you have your whole milk, you have your 2%, you have your 1%, and you have your skim milk.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what you see with chocolate milks is that they'll be either 2% or whole.
Yep.
Which means they'll have a lot more fat. And a lot of people, there's keto diet, high in fat. A lot of people enjoy fats, but every gram of fat has, and you told me not to talk about nutritionals, but I have to.
No, yeah, please. No, you definitely can. Yeah.
Every gram of fat has 9 calories.
Yeah.
And so something that is 2% or whole will have significantly more calories than something that's skim. Yeah. So our product, what we actually do is we use a process called ultrafiltration. It's all natural. And basically it filters out the natural lactose sugars from milk and a lot of the water. So the output of our ultrafiltered milk is almost like a condensed liquid, like a pure protein liquid, more or less. And so that's what gives it a little bit more of the body versus a 2% or a whole milk. So our goal is to taste like a 2% without having any of the fat. Yeah. In terms of the sweetener system, we use a combination of monk fruit and stevia, which gives it like a sweet taste, but it doesn't have the exact same taste of sugar. So some consumers out there just prefer the taste of sugar. Obviously sugar has way more calories. There's studies out there that it's not great for you. So we stay away from it. None of our products have any added sugar, and we actually have 1 gram of natural sugar in all of our drinks.
Got it. So to consumers questioning milk that is typically refrigerated, how do you make that shelf stable, and what can a consumer expect if they order direct to consumer to their home, for example?
Yeah, so the pasteurization process of our milk, if it was just white skim milk in something that wasn't shelf stable versus our pasteurization process, they'd probably taste it. And it actually might change the color slightly because we actually cook our cans to make them shelf stable. But because we use natural flavors, because we use natural sweeteners, the taste, our goal is to emulate a chocolate milk and have the macros are a protein shake. So our goal is to have it taste as close to a chocolate milk as possible. But at the end of the day, we have consumers everywhere that love the product. We have a great repeat purchase rate. There's still going to be consumers out there that don't like products, but there are consumers out there that we found that don't like the taste of chocolate milk that's on the market because it's too sweet. Yeah. So what we say is we create products for people that want them, not for people that don't want them. Like if someone doesn't care about the sugar, the calories that they're putting in their body, and they just want the sweetest product they can have, they're not going to like Slate, but that's not who the brand was created for. The brand was created for those people that want a great tasting product that's actually good for them. Yeah. And so that's how we think about new products. That's how we think about taste, etc. Love it.
Well, Manny, I like to conclude each episode with this. If you can share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret, what would you say that would be?
Oh, man. I would say that what Josh and I always say is we say NLB. Never look back, because you go through a moment, you're going to make mistakes. We still make mistakes. You learn from it, but you don't look back and think of what could have been. Like, you're at that new place and then you just proceed. Yeah. So like, you can't think about the wasted dollars. You can't think about the wasted time. All you can do is right after it happens, absorb it, learn from it, and then eyes forward and NLB, never look back. And I think that there have been, we started doing that early on because we realized there's one moment early on where we just spent too much time thinking about what could have been. And we sat there, we're like, this is a freaking waste of time. Like, what are we doing? Like, let's just think about how we can solve for the problem that we've created. And that's what we're constantly doing, just solving problems within the business, but never look back.
I love it. Well, Manny, thank you so much for joining me. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Slate Milk at slatemilk.com.